Welcome to Stories of Resilience presented by OrthoCarolina. I'm here with two men who are very important to the Panthers franchise, Jake Delhomme and the Panthers head team physician, Dr. Pat Connor. Thank you both for being here. I'm excited to talk to you both about this because it's a comeback that not only shows Jake's resilience, but it really changed the narrative around quarterbacks and elbow injuries, what the two of you did together to get Jake back on the field with the Tommy John surgery. So I'm excited that we get to have this conversation. I appreciate you both being here.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited about it. I guess we're going to reminisce about it with Dr. Connor, and he wasn't just our doctor. He was our friend, still is our friend. So it's good to be able to talk about this.
And Dr. Connor, we appreciate your time as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
So if we could go back to that, Jake, what do you remember about that game and that injury?
Well, that game, it was the third game of the season in Atlanta. And when I say the injury, listen, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. And maybe Pat might have known it also. I'm not sure. But, I knew my elbow was going to pop at some point. That just wasn't ever a question in my mind. I started having some issues in 2005, and it was bothering me a great deal. Shaking a hand, washing my face, brushing teeth. It just bothered me. And then 2007, from the spring to the summer to camp, it just was one thing after another. And it was on probably a 6 to 8 yard pass to Brad Hoover. It was a check down. And right then and there, my elbow went. And I just knew right away that it was a feeling I'd never felt before, and it went. And I grabbed it, and I just I went down on one knee. And they came on the field, Ryan Vermillion and Pat was right there. And I looked at Doc, and I said it went. I've never felt that before in my life. I've never had one of those type of injuries. But I just told him, I said, it went. There's no doubt. It popped.
Well, I remember it very clearly. It's like it was yesterday. The background I think is important. And what the pain he was having on the inside of his elbow were probably just little microscopic tears to that tendon. When we went out there on the field and he was down on one knee holding his arm, he knew what had happened. I knew what had happened, and the one part we'll talk about, but the one part that was different is most throwers that'll have that injury, they'll tear the tendon off the inside of their elbow. But Jake, he tore both the tendon and the ligament, which is that Tommy John ligament, and so that's why his injury was at such a different level than any others. Is that it wasn't just the tendon, but it was both.
Dr. Connor, what was the research around that at the time? What was the common feeling if you had an injury like Jake's and you were a quarterback?
There had never been a quarterback in the history of the National Football League to have a Tommy John surgery, the reconstruction of that ligament, and come back and start as a starting quarterback in the league. And I knew that, and Jake knew that, but Jake had a lot of gas in his tank at that point, and he wasn't even close to calling it a day. And so we talked about it. I remember being on the sidelines. He's got his arm wrapped up. He's holding it. We're on the sidelines of that game, standing over to the side, and we literally are counting backwards from next season and talking about, okay, we're going to get home. We'll get the MRI. We'll talk about it. And, we can give it a little bit of time to see how it feels, but we can't let this day pass without making a decision to have your surgery because you don't want the rehab to go into the next season. So that was his mindset.
Doc he knew the bigger picture. I was so narrow-minded, I guess you could say, and I guess my mindset was, okay, I've never been hurt before. I've never had to kind of be away, and I have to have this surgery. Nobody's had it. And to be quite honest, I knew not many quarterbacks had the surgery and they come back from it. And so my mind's just kind of racing. So that day was kind of a blur for me. But the next morning when I went in and I was talking to Doc, I was like, I don't hurt. My elbow doesn't hurt. Like I slept last night. I didn't get up and had pain. And he said, because he finally ripped. He said, you don't have those nerve endings firing where it was partially torn. I felt good. And then next thing you know, we have to decide on the surgery. And, you know, everybody you'd hear the name so-called, the Dr. Andrews or Neil Elatrosh at the Curlin Joe Clinic. And so I remember talking to my agent, and he was like, hey, we'll get you out an opinion. We'll see somebody here. And I just said, listen, I'm sorry. I said, Pat's doing my surgery.
So Dr. Connor, as you get ready to go in and operate, what are those conversations that you're having about what this is going to look like and what the rehab is?
I'm a big believer in the players having the best possible treatment that they possibly can. And if I didn't do this surgery, and if it wasn't part of my specialty and what I do a lot of, I wouldn't have offered to do it for Jake. As much as I love him and as much as I'm happy to be a surgeon, I wouldn't have offered it had I not known that it was in my wheelhouse. And I talked to him about that, and that's what we talked about. And he had the trust in me to take care of him, and Ryan to do his rehab, and that went a long way.
He said, "This is not a debilitating surgery, meaning you're not having a shoulder redone, you're not having a rotator cuff. It's not an ACL." He goes, "You're going to be bored out your mind." He said, "You're just going to have to be patient and let it set," because they were going to fix, graft a new ligament. He said, "You have to let it set." I didn't know what to expect. So we have the surgery, and they were going to take a piece of my left hamstring to make the ligament. And I think you either take it from whatever, I don't know what you call this right here, if you have it or not. I don't have it, or from your Achilles or your hamstring. So we took it from my left hamstring, where I remember waking up, and I'm in a sling maybe for a day or two, not much. The elbow does not hurt whatsoever. My hamstring is killing me. I'm like, what is going on? And that's what hurt more than anything. It was
we had to slow you down somehow, Jake. That was the idea.
That's why, man. I knew it.
I got to tell you a story. So we come up on the first game of the season that next season, and Jake's elbow, in a lot of people's eyes, is kind of an old story, because Jake, you look at him, he's running around, he's the same old Jake. And so we're out in San Diego, and we play the San Diego Chargers. First game of the season, and they kick off to us, and you'll understand why I remember this so well. They kick off to us, kick it in the end zone. Okay, the team is out on the field, the defense is out on the team. Jake's running out, the play clock is running. Jake stops in the middle of the field and turns around and runs over to me and puts his arm around me and gives me a hug and says, "Thanks, Doc." And he turned around, and I said, "Get out of here." And he turned around and went back out there.
And Jake, was that the same game? So that was the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
But then if I remember correctly, in your first game back, you couldn't have scripted it any better, where you throw the game-winning touchdown for a come-from-behind win, right?
Yeah, that's the one where we had the lead, and Phillip Rivers did some magic kind of late in the game, and they took the lead on us, and we were able to go down. And I threw a touchdown pass to Dante Rosario, and I'll be honest with you, thank gosh Ryan Khalil gave me a high snap on that play, because I had predetermined you should not have scored on this play. I mean, they're all in the back, and I had an idea where I was going with the football. I was going to just look somewhere, and I was going to just drive it to somebody on the left, and Ryan gave me a snap a little high and away, and I lost vision, and they protected well, and we scored. So it was as storybook as a storybook could be. Yeah, it definitely was. Very emotional after the game in the locker room, because I know for me, one of you want to prove a point that I can come back from this, but my thing was I want to prove a point to my team. They can trust and believe in me again. That we're going to find a way to win in the end.
It was all about Jake, what he had overcome and what he had done, and it was really special, because people were really happy that we won the game. All the players were happy that we won the game, but they were really happy for Jake as a person. And I remember the embrace that Jake and Ryan Vermillion had, because those guys spent way more time with each other than they did with their own wives over the course of the previous 12 months. And so it was really special. And Jake never looked back. He did great with his elbow. It became kind of a non-issue over time. But that was really a special game at the start and at the finish.
It's incredible that, we're getting a chance to do several of these. And, I think fans and media, myself included, you hear the name of the injury, right? You see the injury and you hear something like Tommy John, and to get to go into all of these stories, that's just one day, that's one flight to San Diego where all of these things were going on. And so for over that, over the course of almost a year, to get to hear how both of you remember it and how you handled it, Jake, is really special. And it gives a lot of us an insight into this game and into, as we're calling this, the stories of resilience that are happening all the time when you come back from these injuries. So thanks again to both of you. This was incredible.
It's great.
Well, thanks for having us. It's always nice to do this. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Thanks, Kristen. Jake, great to see you as always, my friend.
Same here, PC. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, great. Thanks.